What's up, folks? It's early on a Monday morning. I got my Mando mug of coffee here. We're going to be diving into one of my favorite topics of recent date. Nathan and I have been really riffing on this recently, which is the fact that the launch for Classic Wrath of the Lich King was the most flawless thing we've ever seen. And it just had brought to our attention something that we had always known, but that we've really been diving into in recent weeks, which is how well World of Warcraft performs in all arenas, how well it is optimized, and how the decisions they made in terms of optimization and performance are one of the reasons that it has come to dominate the world in such a fashion over the years, being like the biggest MMORPG ever of all time, still to this day of all time. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfill, sometimes known as the Bearded Dwarven Princess, and that's going to be the topic of today, so let's get ready to dive in. But before we do, this is the part where I say, if you haven't already done so, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, you never miss a live stream, and don't forget, YouTube only sends out about 3 updates per day via the notification system, so you gotta join the Discord. That's the way you get the updates that really matter, because I push out a lot more than 3 things per day here on YouTube. Support the channel like all of these amazing people. It's super simple. On a premiere like this, you can just do a super chat or a sticker. Down there in the chat window, there's a little chat icon with a $sign on it. That's how I get to stay afloat. I get to be full-time because of the support of everyone out there in the community. If it's an uploaded video after the fact, you could drop a super thanks down below. And don't forget the membership option down here. It's the Adventurers Guild. $2.99 a month. It's a simple $3 a month subscription like Netflix or Hulu, but I'm a lot cheaper and I put out a lot more content. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So hopefully we'll see you in one of those areas. I'm going to go run around with my hunter here, the eponymous Renfill character here in, where am I? Howling Fjords, that's where I'm at. I'm getting used to these zones now in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Look at this place. Just look at it. Look at it. Look at it. And enjoy it. We're going to take a flight while I only have 1 flight pass. I guess that's where we're going. Well, while we fly, let's talk a little bit. So, we recently experienced the Wrath of the Lich King launch as it went live here in Wrath of the Lich King Classic for World of Warcraft. So somewhere on my screen at some point, I'll be putting up, it should be going right now actually, there were hundreds of players just in our instance / shard of the game when things went live. Now, most of the time, when you go to play a game and they're going to be pushing a new expansion live, you'll need to log out of the game. They'll bring everything down. They'll bring the login servers down. They'll bring all the servers down, and you will have to then get into a queue and work your way through that queue to be able to get logged in. But this time around, they actually did it while the game was live. They did a pre-patch, which is really cool, and pre-patch the continent and everything else in. Look at those views as we fly into Westguard Keep. That's just amazing. Pre-patched everything, and so all anyone had to do was be waiting on the docks, whether it was in Menethil Harbor. I'm in Alliance, so I don't know about the Horde, but Menethil Harbor or Stormwind. We were in Stormwind going to the Borean Tundra at the time. Waiting on the docks, and they simply flipped a switch, and the boats came, and we were able to go straight to Borean Tundra. Now this video sequence that I'm showing here on screen of us getting onto the boat and then us getting off the boat in Borean Tundra, and the hundreds, if not, I don't know, maybe 1,000 players that are just in this instance, this phase of the game. I'm only on a 1080. All right, my laptop has a 1080 in it with 32 gigs of RAM. It's an older system by this point. I didn't have a single frame rate drop at all. Nobody in our party had a frame rate drop at all. It was a flawless experience with hundreds of players on screen, 0 performance issues. But not only that, the servers never went down the entire time we were playing. The only thing we did notice was that as we were playing the game, during the first few hours after launch, there were some hiccups when it came to there being like a little bit of like lag related to looting corpses. And that we can only assume was related to the fact that there were just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people playing the game, and so it was lagging out the loot servers a little bit at some point. But at no point in time did the game crash, and at no point in time did any of us have to log out of the game or experience a queue. Now, I know what some of you are going to be saying, but Tim, you must not be playing on a very popular server. We're on the Pagle server, which is one of the more popular servers. It's one of the servers from original Classic launch. We are not one of the new servers. As I understand it, some of the new servers had queue times of 6 hours or more with like 15,000 people in the queue. We didn't have that. Now, some people will point to that and say, Tim, that's a sign of a failed launch. They didn't have enough servers open and people had to wait to get into the game. No, it's not. That's a strategic decision on their part to have to avoid needing to do server merges later on, and it has nothing to do with the performance of the game. That has everything to do with that's another issue, which we're going to talk about at another point in time. But it has nothing to do with the performance. One of the things I'm here to talk about today is the performance of the game. Hundreds of players on screen, zero graphical lag. Thousands of players doing things, and the only thing we saw was a little bit of loot lag. Nobody got kicked. There were no server crashes, nothing like that, which is something you'll see in every single MMORPG out there when a game launches or when an expansion pack comes out. Now, above and beyond that, we started to take a look, and we've always sort of known this, but my brother and I in particular were running around and we're looking at things like, if you look at this plant as an example, since I'm going to go into first person as I'm standing here. So look at this plant, it looks really cool, right? So we come stand it to the side, and that's just a billboard texture. Like it's just a paper thin, that's that leaf that we're looking at. And from the side, it looks like a leaf. And then you come over here, and it's literally just this thing. It's just a billboard. So there's not a lot going on there in terms of performance, and yet it looks good, and 99% of players are never going to actually pay attention to the fact that that's just a billboard. The same can go for many, many things in the game. And a lot of the things that you'll notice is like when you're in a dungeon and you see a big pile of bones, it's not actually a pile of bones. It's just a texture over an object, which is a very good performant way to do things as opposed to needing to render a 3D object that has LODs on it. So they've done a lot of trickery to make the game look very good within their given art style while not being a huge draw on your graphics card. Now compare that to, say, modern games that are being built in the Unity engine. A lot of people will say, oh, Unity is the darling of the indie world. Everybody builds these amazing, everybody builds these really cool indie games in Unity, but everyone always complains that the performance is shit in these little indie games. There's a lot of reasons for that, one of which is the fact that they can rarely afford to pay a graphics programmer to come in and do the things that need to be done in terms of custom shaders and so on and so forth. But there's also the fact that when people are just pre-purchasing assets from the Unity store, this also goes for Unreal, a lot of the times these artists, or excuse me, these indie teams are not looking at the performance side of things. They're just trying to figure out how to make a game that is fun to play. And so they're just pre-purchasing assets, or they don't know any better and they're building assets, and they're building things with LOD variants in there to try to make up for, performance as best they can, but they're not doing a lot of billboarding and texturing because they want their game to look like Skyrim or, name your favorite medieval fantasy game that looks really, really good. But what they're not taking into consideration is that a lot of these single player games can get away with it because they're not having hundreds of players on screen. And when you have an MMORPG environment, you have to be worrying about the performance. So this got us talking about the greater component at play here, which is the fact that even back in when this game launched, 2004, 2005, so on and so forth. Again, I didn't play this game at launch, so don't crucify me if I don't know the timelines exactly. This game has always been able to run even on the lowest systems. I can remember when Chris and I first tried to play this game together, when she first tried it, was in 2000 and when did the movie come out? I don't know, 11, 12, something like that. No, it might have been a little later than that. I don't remember. Whenever the movie came out. And she was running a 2009 laptop without an actual graphics card, just an Intel chip. She just bought herself a cheap little $300 laptop to learn how to do things on the internet and to use for work-related projects as she was learning graphic design. And that little system was able to run World of Warcraft just fine. My little nephew is running a POS that is like 10 years old, falling apart with a super old graphics card. He can run this game completely fine. They have made this game perform on computers that, by all other standards, would be considered, flaming piles of garbage, and yet they will still run World of Warcraft, which means they have made the game accessible to millions and millions and millions and millions of players who might not otherwise be able to play an MMORPG. That is a strategic and brilliant strategy in terms of creating a game that is so performant that it excels on everyone's systems and means that more and more people can play your game. So rather than limiting your game by having something that only a handful of people can log into, they focused on using tricks like billboards and textures instead of actual 3D objects as a means of reducing the draw time and the performance hogging issues so that you could have more players on screen being able to be rendered without it being taxing the system. In any case, I love going back to that experience we had logging into Wrath for the first time because we didn't get to experience this when it came out. And Nathan, myself, Sparrow, my brother, El Salvador, and Maduros, being able to be on that boat and that rush of people going on, and then when we got off the boat and it was like this sea of zombies or locusts just swarming over everything, that is going to forever stick with me as probably the coolest thing I've seen at the launch of an MMORPG ever. And that happened in 2022, and it just blows my mind that it's like that. I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts and comments below. Drop them down there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Support the channel on a premiere like this with a super chat down there. Pick an amount, whatever you choose. You can also do a super thanks after the video has been uploaded. Also, consider a membership option is $2.99 a month. And if you want to go above and beyond, there is a Patreon page where my wife, my brother, and I are doing the World of the Weave and the Void. Check that out. Don't forget to join us on the Pagle server Alliance side. We play almost every single day, every single night of the week. Raids are coming in October. Can't wait. Hopefully we see you in game as well. Until the next episode, stay tuned, everyone. Happy gaming.